assault.
Oh my God!
What the hell?
Surprise! Sasha Banks attacking the...
There have been moments when certain female superstars pushed the limits with shocking words and controversial actions.
Does my title even fit around your waist?
Michelle, the extender.
Whether it was body-shaming a fellow wrestler, making cruel remarks about a rival's late family member, delivering deeply personal and insulting comments, or even taking part in a live TV segment with sexual themes watched by millions, these incidents sparked major backlash from fans. In this video, we'll take a look at the female wrestlers whose most controversial moments went far beyond the usual WWE storyline.
You are the British badass.
Let's start with Paige. On the November 16, 2015 episode of Raw, a contract signing between Paige and Charlotte was supposed to build hype for their Divas Championship match at Survivor Series. Instead, it became one of the most uncomfortable segments in WWE history. Paige crossed a line no one expected. She made a deeply personal remark about Charlotte's late brother Reed Flair, who had passed away in 2013. The comment stunned the WWE universe and caused instant outrage. What made it worse was that WWE never informed or sought permission from the Flair family. Ric Flair and Reed's mother, watching live, were left in tears. Charlotte, overcome with emotion, immediately attacked Paige, forcing officials to intervene.
You know, I didn't get into this business to make friends. But when I started at NXT...
But that wasn't Paige's only controversial moment. During a match against Natalya on Main Event, she licked her opponent's face in a move that did not sit well with WWE management at all. It added to her unpredictable reputation, but also landed her in serious hot water backstage. In 2009, Michelle McCool and Layla, known collectively as Lay Cool, ignited one of the most divisive storylines in women's wrestling history, the Piggy James angle, aimed directly at Mickie James. Rather than building a legitimate in-ring rivalry, Lay Cool publicly mocked Mickie's weight, humiliating her with cruel taunts and derogatory body-shaming segments week after week. The backlash was intense. Fans and critics condemned WWE for promoting bullying at a time when the company was supposed to be moving past outdated stereotypes. Behind the scenes, Michelle McCool later admitted she felt deeply uncomfortable throughout the entire angle, so much so that she personally apologized to Mickie James before every segment. Mickie, to her credit, handled the entire situation with remarkable professionalism and grace. When Sasha Banks returned to Monday Night Raw in 2019, it should have been a triumphant moment. Instead, it became one of the most ruthless heel turns of her career. Sasha interrupted Natalya's emotional tribute to her late father, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, blindsiding her with a vicious assault. But it was what Sasha said that truly crossed the line. Standing over a fallen Natalya, she reportedly said, "Go to hell, Natty, and tell your daddy I said hi." The implication that her father was in hell was something WWE had previously explored in storylines, but usually with family approval. Not this time. Natalya went public on social media to make it clear the line was never signed off on, calling reports to the contrary entirely off base. That response made the moment feel even more disturbing in hindsight. Lita is widely considered one of the most influential female wrestlers of all time, a trailblazer who helped redefine what women could do in the ring, but one of her most talked about moments had nothing to do with moonsaults or high-risk moves. In January 2006, Edge had just cashed in his Money in the Bank contract to become WWE champion. WWE's creative team wanted something wild to celebrate the moment, and Vince McMahon signed off on the company's first ever live sex celebration. A bed was set up in the ring, and Edge and Lita performed an intimate scene on live television, a segment that drew a 5.2 rating, the highest Raw had seen in nearly a year. But while WWE celebrated the ratings, Lita paid the biggest personal price. A wardrobe malfunction during the segment exposed her on live TV, later edited out of streaming versions, but not before millions had already seen it. She left WWE later that year, with the segment forever attached to her legacy. Mickie James's rivalry with Trish Stratus heading into WrestleMania 22 was one of the most compelling storylines in women's division history. Mickie played a character obsessed with Trish, a superfan who slowly turned creepy and dangerous. The build-up was electric, and fans were locked in. But what happened during the match itself caught everyone off guard, including WWE management. Mickie had asked for permission to lick her own finger during the bout to sell her character's unstable persona. Instead, in the heat of the moment, she made a split-second decision to go much further. After the match, rather than receiving praise for her performance, she was hauled in and reprimanded. It was an unscripted moment that generated real consequences backstage. During her match against Ivory at the Royal Rumble in 2001, Chyna appeared to suffer a serious neck injury in the ring. She collapsed after a move and couldn't get up. The crowd went silent. Commentator Jim Ross called it a tragedy in a solemn voice, and even Jerry Lawler left the announce table to check on her, a rare moment that reminded fans of the real-life tragedy of Owen Hart 2 years prior. But it was all scripted. The fake injury was designed to build sympathy and set up Chyna's emotional comeback at WrestleMania X7, where she defeated Ivory to win the Women's Championship. While the comeback itself was satisfying, many felt WWE crossed a line by simulating a real-looking injury in a way that touched on genuine trauma the WWE Universe had already experienced. Nia Jax has long carried the reputation of being an unsafe worker, and it's not without reason. In November 2018, during the build to Survivor Series, Nia landed a real punch on Becky Lynch during a backstage brawl that broke Becky's nose and gave her a severe concussion. The injury threatened to derail one of the most anticipated matches of the year. Ironically, the moment had the opposite effect on Becky's career. The image of her standing in the crowd, blood streaming down her face, defiantly smiling, became one of the most iconic images in WWE history and cemented her status as the man. But not everyone was so fortunate. Bayley suffered a separated shoulder when Nia threw her out of the ring with too much force in 2017. In 2020, Kairi Sane suffered a nasty cut when Nia whipped her into the steel steps. Time and again, Nia proved that her power and her recklessness were one and the same. In the late 90s, Sunny was the most downloaded celebrity on the internet and one of the most recognizable names in all of wrestling. But decades later, her story became one of WWE's most tragic. On March 25, 2022 in Florida, Sunny was behind the wheel while extremely drunk, her blood alcohol level 4 times the legal limit. She crashed into a vehicle stopped at a red light, triggering a chain reaction that took the life of 75-year-old Julian Lasseter. What made it worse was that Sunny had already lost her license due to multiple prior DUI convictions. She should never have been driving. In November 2023, she was sentenced to 17 years in prison, plus 8 years probation. What began as a groundbreaking career in professional wrestling ended in a courtroom. These are the female superstars whose most controversial moments went beyond storylines, beyond kayfabe, and in some cases beyond the ring itself. Some crossed the line by design, others didn't even see the line coming. Either way, the fallout was very real. If you made it this far, hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a video. New content drops all the time, and trust us, there's plenty more where this came from.
What I'm shocked at is the thought of Brock, and again, if the check's big enough, it doesn't matter if it's a second, but the thought of Brock going all the way to Saudi Arabia for 60 seconds of work.
Yeah, that's a great point. Great point.
I just don't see that happening.
Right.
But again, at 48 years old, if the check cashes, and we know how the Saudis love the stars, they love the big guys over there,
Yeah.
They love to pay.
Former WWE commentator Jonathan Coachman has shared his thoughts on Brock Lesnar's potential appearance at WWE Night of Champions. According to Coachman, the Beast incarnate could make a surprise appearance during Oba Femi's King of the Ring finals match against Jey Uso at the upcoming Premium Live event. However, Coachman believes Lesnar would only make the trip to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, if the financial offer is substantial enough. With WWE's Saudi events known for featuring major attractions and marquee stars, speculation is growing that Lesnar could return to reignite his rivalry with Oba Femi if the price is right. Stay with us, because there is a lot to unpack here, and this story goes far deeper than just one appearance. Let's get into it. Before we get to what Coachman said, let's make sure everyone is fully up to speed on how we got here, because this rivalry between Brock Lesnar and Oba Femi has been one of the most compelling threads in WWE programming in recent memory. It all started at WrestleMania 42, where these two absolute powerhouses collided for the very first time. And what happened? Oba Femi, the young, athletic, physically imposing Nigerian-born superstar, did something that very few people in the history of this business have ever done. He squashed Brock Lesnar. Clean, emphatically, in dominant fashion. The pro wrestling world sat up and took notice, but the story was far from over. The two met again at Clash in Italy, and this time the result was reversed. Brock Lesnar reasserted himself as the Beast, picking up the victory and reminding the world why he has been one of the most feared competitors in sports entertainment history. Following that victory, Lesnar made a statement that seemed to close the chapter. He declared he was done with Oba Femi. Finished, moving on. But Femi had other ideas. The young powerhouse made it abundantly clear that in his mind, the rivalry is not settled. There is one more chapter left to write, and with SummerSlam 2026 on the horizon, that chapter could be the biggest of them all. Reports have been swirling for weeks, suggesting that Lesnar and Femi are being set up for a rubber match at SummerSlam, and more significantly that this could serve as Brock Lesnar's official retirement match, right in his hometown of Minneapolis. Now here is where things get really interesting. On Tuesday, June 24th, Jonathan Coachman addressed the elephant in the room on his Coach and Bro show, co-hosted alongside Vince Russo. Coachman was discussing the King of the Ring finals setup Femi versus Jey Uso, and he brought up the possibility that Lesnar's shadow could loom large over that very match. Here is what Coachman had to say, and we are paraphrasing from the broadcast. "What I'm shocked at is the thought of Brock. And again, if the check's big enough, it doesn't matter if it's a second, but the thought of Brock going all the way to Saudi Arabia for 60 seconds of work. I just don't see that happening. But again, at 48 years old, if the check cashes, and we know how the Saudis love the stars, they love the big guys over there, they love to pay. Let that land for a moment." Coachman, a man who spent over a decade inside the WWE machine, someone who has worked alongside Brock Lesnar and understands how this business operates at its highest level, is telling us directly that money is the deciding factor. That is it. That is the condition. If Saudi Arabia puts the right number on the table, Brock Lesnar boards that flight. And here is the thing, this is not a wild or outlandish suggestion. This is rooted in the very real reality of how WWE Saudi Arabia events have historically operated. The Saudi PIF partnership has never been shy about spending significant money to bring in the biggest names in sports entertainment. We have seen it time and time again, legends, part-timers, marquee attractions all making appearances because the financial incentive was simply too good to pass up. At 48 years old, with a potential retirement on the horizon, Brock Lesnar has every reason to make his appearances count both creatively and financially.
I'ma do what I do, Uzi. I'ma silence the haters. I'ma shock the world, Uzi. That's what I do. And on Saturday, Oba, I'ma climb this mountain, Uzi. Yeah, and I'ma wear that crown for the king that I am, Uzi. And on SummerSlam, I take it to Cody Rhodes. Oba, I guarantee you, I will be undisputed WWE champion, Uzi. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Night of Champions. Oba, it's me and you, Uzi. This your water shot. Ball!
Femi breaks his silence after Jey Uso called him out ahead of their huge clash. During a fiery promo, Jey Uso declared that he would silence all the haters, defeat Femi, capture the crown, and eventually go after Cody Rhodes to become the undisputed WWE champion. However, Femi was not impressed by Jey's bold claims. Responding to the challenge, the ruler sent a chilling warning, saying that if Jey takes his shot and misses, he will destroy him, and even if he lands the shot, he will still destroy him. With tensions reaching a boiling point, the rivalry between Femi and Jey Uso has become more personal than ever.
My warning shot. I see. So I'm assuming at Night of Champions, you're shooting for real. Piece of advice. When you shoot, don't miss. Because if you do, I will destroy you. And if you don't, I'll still destroy you. Because at the end of the day, you're not the family member that I'm really worried about. So why don't you take your stupid bullets and you give that to your cousin, courtesy of the ruler, Femi.
We break it all down. The warnings, the mind games, the history, and everything you need to know heading into Saturday's massive showdown at WWE Night of Champions. Stay with us, this is going to be one for the history books. To understand why this final feels so electric, you have to understand the journey both men took to get here. Femi the ruler has been on a warpath, after his history-making showdown with Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, and a rematch at WWE Clash in Italy that ultimately didn't go his way. Many wondered how Femi would respond. The answer: dominance. He entered the King of the Ring tournament and made everyone regret doubting him. In the first round, he dismantled a stacked fatal four-way field that included Intercontinental Champion Penta, Solo Sikoa, and Carmelo Hayes, overcoming 3 elite competitors in a single night. From there, he set his sights on Apala Mega Champion Dominic Mysterio in the semi-finals and left no room for debate. Dominic simply had no answer for the ruler's raw power and calculated aggression. On the other side of the bracket, Jey Uso had a mission handed to him directly by his cousin and world heavyweight champion, Roman Reigns. The tribal chief made it clear no interference, no backup, no bloodline handholding. Jey would have to earn this crown on his own merits, and earn it he did. Jey bested LA Knight, Royce Keys, and Finn Balor in the first round, a murderer's row of talent by anyone's measure. Then, in the semifinals, he managed to ground the explosive Javon Evans, whose aerial game had kept every opponent guessing all tournament long. Jey found a way to neutralize the threat and punch his ticket to the final. 2 different paths, 2 different styles, 1 crown, and one massive collision on the horizon. Monday Night Raw from London set the stage for what is now one of the most talked-about confrontations of 2026. Oba Femi opened the show to a reception that would have stunned anyone who hadn't been watching closely. The London crowd erupted in chants of Oba, 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 a sea of passionate fans rallying behind the ruler before he even uttered a single word. It was a moment that spoke volumes. When Femi finally did speak, he was calm, composed, almost eerily confident. He told the world that destiny had been on his side throughout this entire tournament, and that she wasn't finished with him yet. He made it plain this isn't about luck. This was always supposed to happen. He considers winning the King of the Ring crown to be a foregone conclusion. But then he said something that turned heads. After Night of Champions, who does he go after? The WWE Championship held by Cody Rhodes, or the World Heavyweight Championship currently in the possession of Roman Reigns? The London crowd answered for him. Loudly, they want Oba Femi versus Roman Reigns. And if that moment told us anything, it's that Femi's star power is only growing with every appearance. Then came Jey Uso. His entrance was unmistakably Jey big energy, big music, big crowd reaction. But here's the fascinating thing. A portion of the fan base has long criticized Jey Uso for being all flash and no substance. A performer who knows how to work a crowd, but struggles when the bell rings against elite-level opposition. And in a strange way, that criticism actually played right into Oba Femi's hands. Because as Jey worked the London crowd into a frenzy just walking to the ring, Femi stood there, stone cold and unblinking, a man of substance who lets his actions do the talking. Jey, visibly out of breath and breathing heavy throughout his entire promo,